Yo, sleepers, Augiesaint here and welcome to the channel. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. We need to talk about Dune Awakening. It's just over 3 days now before we actually get into the head start on the 5th. And I have a couple of tips and tricks I want to share with you guys to get ahead early on, just to make your experience in ARRAKIS that much smoother as you start the game out for the first time. And then I have a couple of resources I'd like to share with you guys as well. If you know me, you know I like spreadsheets and Google Docs. I will be making all of that stuff and keeping it up to date with the launch of Dune. And obviously right now I can't show you guys everything because some of it is still under NDA. But once we get closer, I believe on the 4th, the NDA will lift and then I can show you guys pretty much everything there is to know. So for now, I can show you guys this little tips of, we're going to cover all of these in this video. And then as an example, I just want to show you what I mean by a Bible. This is my TFD Bible. If you guys have been on the channel, you know that we play quite a bit of First Descendants. We used to. And then this is what we ended up making. It's got a link to pretty much all my build videos. We have a lot of useful information here. And then this is what I plan on making for Dune Awakening as well. Currently, we do have one set up and it's got about 5 different tabs of really useful information. But like I said, NDA, I can't actually show that to you. So that's why I'm not showing it in this video. But the rest of the stuff I am free to show you guys right now, as well as this Dune Awakening skill builder. This is a nice little website. I'll leave this all linked down below in the description. It's still beta and obviously being built because none of this stuff is final yet. But this is really nice, especially if you want to have a look at the classes and the perk trees over here. You can actually like spec these out and like build them up to see how many points you need to actually unlock certain things. Pretty soon I'll be doing like a best starter class video, so we'll go ahead and we'll cover all the different skill points and perks and what's the best thing to choose. But that's really nice. I'll have this all linked in the description, and then we also have this interactive map. Now this is obviously blocked out because of NDA, but once the NDA lifts, then I'm sure they will actually activate the rest of this map. Plus, I do have my own map with everything on it as well, so I can show you guys. But we'll be referring to this map quite a bit in the video as well, just showing you guys the best place for like your starter base, and then the next best base in the anvil area, and then where you want to kind of like get towards, because after the anvil area, you kind of want to go up this way over here to mine some stuff over there. It's going to be like next in the chain pretty much of your resources. So with all that information laid out in front of you guys, let's hop into the video. So as you spawn in through the tutorial, spawn somewhere down below here in the south of Augiesaint. And then you need to make your way to the Griffin's Reach outpost. You can see that's the trading outpost. I recommend doing the tutorial on the way to Griffin's Reach, and that's where you want to set up your first base in this area here, because you'll have a lot of tests to do, especially with this testing station and the ship. Both of these are part of a contract, and then you'll have a few more missions later on down here, some contracts. But what I recommend is actually building a base pretty much like in this central area here around the Griffin's Reach outpost. And you can see this if you happen to spawn in at night. You can see this from quite far away. It will be like a really big lit up tower. So if you are lucky and you spawn in at night or it's close to nighttime, you can actually look out for it and you can just go in that direction and then set up your first base around this area. You will be prompted to actually make a base earlier than reaching the Griffin's outpost. However, I would say just collect everything on your way to the Griffin's outpost, finish all the little quests, and then when it tells you to make your first little base, wait until you get close to this area. Now I do have like a whole 2-hour video of me pretty much doing from start until I get the bike and actually come up to the anvil area. So if you guys would like to see that whole 2 hours, I can go ahead and put that up as a video. But that was a little bit of a sloppy run. I could easily do it. I think in about an hour and 20 minutes or so, we could go from start straight up to anvil and actually having a bike and then exploring up into the further regions, because obviously this won't be the beta. So you can pretty much go wherever you want to go as long as you can survive the area. So once you have your bike, the game really opens up to you and you should be able to easily get your bike within the first hour and then get to the anvil within the next like 20-30 minutes of having the bike. So I'd recommend set up your first base there, and then you can start doing the contracts, which you will find in Griffin's Reach. And then the contracts will take you all around the map. There's like some to do over there. I believe there's a few around here as well. And then a really important tip as well is once you've set up your first little mini base, you don't have to really set this up very big, because you want to focus on setting your big base up in the anvil. But you have your little base now, and then don't forget about the trooper trainer, which can be found in Griffin's Reach, the outpost. Pick up the quest from him. He'll have you come down. I believe he's the one where you have to go between these little caves here and kill a bunch of deserter enemies or something. It's like 3 or 4 different elite-ish enemies you have to come down here and kill. And then that unlocks the trooper tree for you, which is actually really good at getting around, because we have a look at the trooper tree. They get access to the grappling hook, and that thing's really useful once you have the ability to glide. It's with some armor piece. I forgot the exact name of it, but you'll craft it and then you can actually go ahead and glide. I think it's like the Emperor's Wings or something like that. You go ahead and you grapple and then you just glide away. It's like really, really good movement tech. And then the rest of the tree is also pretty good with some range damage. There's specific weapon types like scatter guns and disruptors. So overall, the trooper is really nice to go ahead and pick up really soon. So once you get to Griffin's Reach, make sure you pick that up and then do the quest for it. And then as well, you'll get another quest to come over to this Testing station number 2, make sure you go speak to the trainer, which is actually found on top of this little rock area. Yeah, so we're going to go up top. You can actually come drive in around the side. Yeah, so you don't have to like climb up it. There is a path actually leading into it. So go talk to him and then he'll have you pick something up inside the testing station and then come back to him. And then we'll unlock the plantologist tree for you, which is also really good at gathering because you can see the cutter mining. It's going to give you a bigger yield. So I would pick that up immediately. If you have a skill point spare, go ahead, put that in 10% more from your cutter yield, which you're going to be using a lot, especially early on as you are, building up your bases and everything. So I would recommend doing all the contracts as well because they're pretty easy and you'll be going this way to unlock the trooper quest as well as the plantologist over there. So just do all the contracts around there, get all the Solari, which will give you quite a boost in the beginning as well as a nice boost to XP. You'll have more intel and research points to spend on things as you go forward. And also a little tip for the bike is once you craft yourself your first bike, make sure you make an inventory for it as well, especially once you will be moving over to the anvil. So once you've decided to move from the Griffin's Reach over to the anvil, basically once you get the quest or the contract to go over to the anvil, I would suggest then to build yourself an inventory so you can take all the resources you've gathered with you to your new base in the anvil. But earlier on when you are exploring with the bike, make sure that you don't have too many things in the inventory, because you can't store your vehicle with the vehicle storing tool if it has anything in its inventory. And when you are zooming around and moving around the map, I would recommend as soon as you get off your bike, make sure you store it in your vehicle storage, because anything can happen, like a sandstorm can roll in, can destroy it if you're not there, if you're exploring something, or if you leave it in a specific place, you go into a cave and maybe the cave has an entrance to go out the back. Now you have to backtrack and go all the way to the front of the cave to go ahead and pick up your vehicle, where instead if you saved it in your vehicle tool, you can just spawn it right in front of you as you actually go through the cave. And then while you're exploring, make sure you don't forget about the survey tool. You want to carry a bunch of probes with you. Usually carry like 1 or 2 probes with you in case you go to a new area and you want to shoot up a quick probe so you can actually, survey the area. In Hager Basin, this bottom part counts as a whole area. So if you like shoot up a probe, it should show you everything on the map. And then the anvil area counts as another one. So you need another probe for that area. And then the left area, I forgot the name of it, but this also needs another probe. And then obviously once we're out of these zones, you will need different probes to get all of these different areas. I think it's about 5 or 6 different areas. So just make sure you have like 1 or 2 probes on you at all time, especially once you, go out with the goal of exploring and discovering the rest of the map. Because if you don't shoot up the probe, then everything is going to be like fog of war and you have to like slowly go through it by yourself. So it's much easier and faster to go ahead and probe it. Plus you can actually apply that to a sync chart later on. You can sell that to other players or just trade it to your buddies if they haven't been to a certain area later on. And then the biggest tip I can give you guys early on for gathering stuff is blood and plant fibers, because those are pretty much the 2 things that are going to bottleneck you pretty hard. Blood's just going to bottleneck you because that converts over to water. So water is the actual bottleneck. And then the problem with plant fibers is you can't make plant fibers. You can't mine plant fibers. You can literally only find plant fibers, and you can't increase how many plant fibers you get. So pretty much throughout the whole game, all the armors, the blood bag, there's so many things that use plant fibers, and that eventually is also going to become a pretty big problem. It's just not having enough plant fibers because there's no real reliable way to follow them. Literally, they're just all over the map. If you see one, make sure you stop, make it a habit. If you see a bunch of plant fibers, stop, pick it up, you will thank me later. And then the other tip with the water being a big bottleneck early on, we worked it out and we did some dirty math that an advanced blood purifier, so this is not even the first one you can make, can only purify about 9,000 water per hour. That's if you keep it filled up the whole time. So 9,000 water might sound like a lot to you, but trust me, once you get into the game and you start crafting, especially once you hit the above the cobalt stage, so like the iron and stuff, all of the crafting is going to pretty much use water, and then that scales exponentially, especially once you get to like aluminium and duranium and all that stuff later on. It scales kind of exponentially. Like one craft will be like 50 water, the next one will be like 200 water, the next one will be 500. Then I think the highest steel or something that we can craft is actually like 1200 water. That's per ingot. So you're going to need a ton of water. There will be other ways to get water later on with the destil and the wind chest, but early on the advanced blood purifier is your best friend. Even into like the mid game is still your best friend. So what I would suggest is once you can make the advanced blood purifier, it would probably be just about once you get to the anvil. I think you'll still have the basic blood purifiers in the startup zone. Make sure you have at least 2 of those when you're starting, just so you can keep them topped up with blood whenever you return to the base, doing little quests and things like before you get to the anvil. Make sure your blood purifiers are stocked up and make as many as you can. We actually plan on making about 15 to 20 of them once we do finally get in on launch day. If you guys want to see all of this happening too, by the way, drop them by the stream at twitch.tv/Augiesaint. We'll be streaming as soon as the head start servers go live. We've got a really good plan on how to get to, our goal is to get to aluminium on day 1, and we should have an ornicopter on the 2nd day of launch. So you guys want to check out all that craziness, make sure you drop them by the streams. Love to see you guys there, and then ask any questions you have as well. If you have any questions so far in this video, make sure to ask them down below in the comments as well. I'll try and answer them to the best of my knowledge. Now back to the water purifier, well, the blood purifier. The blood to water purifying is also not a 1-to-1 conversion, so you do need a lot more blood than what you will actually be getting water. I think it was like 8-to-3 or something, like 8 or 9 milliliters of blood converts over to water, but none of that's really important. All you need to know, make sure you craft a bunch of blood bags early on. Guess what? Those use plant fibers, so make sure you're grabbing the plant fibers. So you craft, what I would recommend when you first start out and the very first time you make the blood extractor tool and the blood bags, craft yourself at least 4 blood bags, not just one. Craft yourself 4 blood bags minimum, and make sure you carry those with you on your person. Whenever you kill bandits, make sure you are gathering their blood. And whenever you return to your base, make sure you're depositing all that blood into your purifier so you can constantly be generating water. You'll thank me later because water is going to be one of your biggest bottlenecks in the game. And then another tip while we are talking about generating stuff is power generators. Make sure you are just crafting more of the basic power generator. The basic power generator generates about 75 power. Very cheap to actually build it, and it's very cheap to maintain it with fuel cells. And then the next up power thingy, I believe, is like a wind trap or something that actually requires you to use lubricant. So that is a lot harder to actually come by, and it doesn't really give you that much more power. So what I would recommend is actually just to build yourself a ton of the lower tier power generators. We worked it out yesterday, me and my friend. Hypothetically, of course, we looked at it, but the first power generator is the best power generator until you get the 3rd tier of power generator. So pretty much you skip the 2nd power generator, and then the 3rd power generator is the one you want to start making. Again, I can't say the exact names in that, but just think about the first power generator you get, the 2nd one you unlock through progression, skip that one, just build more of the first one, and then just build the 3rd one once you unlock that later in your progression. Obviously, once Indias and everything lift, I will make a full-on guide for all of this stuff. The best way to purify blood, best power generators, everything like that will be coming to the channel, so stay tuned for that. And then what I could recommend for you guys with the trials is the game is pretty much going to tell you to keep doing the trials and progressing them. Like as soon as you finish one trial, it's going to make your main quest the next trial. I would suggest do the very first 2 trials right away. If you have a look at the interactive map here, you can see the first trial is very early on. You'll probably get the first trial done before you get to the Griffin's outpost. It's kind of like on the way, or depending where you spawn, because you can either spawn on the left or you could spawn on the right. So you go through, complete the first trial, and then you want to go ahead and do the 2nd trial, which is found on the way to the anvil. Because once you get your bike, you'll probably take like a route around this area and then come back up to the anvil over here. And then a good base to build an anvil, I recommend around this area or this area over here as well, because you want to be going up into this ravine later on to go mine some later stuff. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. I would recommend doing the 1st and 2nd trial and then just forgetting about the trials. Especially on day 1, I would not recommend going further than the 2nd trial, mainly because you just want to get the pogo spice stick is what we call it. You need the stick to actually go ahead and mine the flour that's going to pop up around the areas. And you need that flour to craft silicone, which you need for the next tier of crafting things. You need a bunch of silicone. That's why I'd recommend doing the 2nd trial, like getting the 1st and 2nd trial done really quickly so you can get the spice pogo stick. And then you have access to actually go ahead and mine flour. It usually pops up around all over the map, or there could be like a spice outburst as well, and you can collect a little bit of the purple spice, which is the same spice you would find in the deep desert. And you can only gather that if you actually have the stick that you get from the 2nd trial. And then the 3rd trial, I believe, is right over here. Yeah, 3rd trial is on the left, and then the 4th trial is actually on this big massive rock in the middle of the map. There is a much easier way to go up this rock than actually climbing it like I did the first time in the beta because I was bored. So I will be making a full video on covering all the trials as well later on. I do have that in the Bible that I'm not allowed to show you guys yet in the Google document, but once the NDA lifts, I will show that to you guys. And I have all the locations on the whole map for pretty much where all the trials are, and like a little short description on how to do them and how to actually get into them, because some of them are actually pretty hidden, especially the final trial is like really well hidden. So if you guys have made it this far into the video, make sure to comment down below. May the spice forever be in your favor. Stay tuned to the channel by subscribing and liking the video. It helps me out so much and it keeps you guys up to date on all the Dune stuff we will be pumping out pretty soon. I'm super hyped and can't wait to actually dive in the desert with you guys, so stay tuned and I'll catch you beautiful people in the next one. Augiesaint out.
Run free and dive into the sky. Hear the